Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Happy Anniversary, which XOXO. I worked as a receptionist, customer service person at an audiologist for the first half of my 20s. This boomer witch comes in for batteries for her hearing aids and I look her name up in the system, see her type of hearing aids and get her the correct batteries called 675s. She looks at the packet and says they're the wrong battery type. I show her on the computer the type of batteries and place them in her own hearing aids and the hearing aid works. Any other type of battery would be too small, hence not work, and also get stuck anyway. But she insists, no, it has to be P675. This just says 675. And I'm trying to explain to her it's the same thing, the manufacturer just changed the packaging so the P isn't there anymore. And she keeps going on about how her audiologist kept hammering in that it has to have P for power. I show her the back of the packaging that has the P on it, but it's still not enough and it doesn't look like the ones that work. Then she goes on about how the audiologist would know more about batteries than just a receptionist. And how would I know? I'm just a receptionist. Mind you, she's a difficult client and we all know her at the center. Her audiologist is in the next room sending me chats saying, I never ducking said that because it's 15 minutes before close on a Friday and we just wanna go home and her audiologist doesn't want to speak with her because it'd be more time wasted. I'm like, you know what? Fine. So I go in the back and get expired batteries with the old packaging on because the good ones with the old packaging were all gone already and give them to her, and since these were the ones she wanted I am now closing the center. I wrote alert notes for the next person who deals with her but about how she didn't want to take fresh new batteries because the packaging was different. So she's all happy with herself and leaves. Weekend goes by. I didn't work at that center again for a week because I was at another center. But I check up her notes and it said, client very frustrated and upset today. Had 50th anniversary weekend with friends and family and couldn't hear a thing because batteries weren't working. Did packaging training with customer to clarify batteries in new packaging will work. Hope you enjoyed your anniversary, which XOXO. Next one is titled, Toasted Enough? I worked at Duncan my senior year of high school, 2005 to 2006. People were terrible to us and we would often be called, dropout, etc. I'm a very good, polite, customer service personality. Well, one afternoon a woman requested a bagel extra toasted. Okay. I turned down the speed of the toaster to its lowest setting so the bagel is under the coils longer and I prep it and hand it off. She looks at it and very upset but still trying to be polite tells me she asked for extra toasted and please make it again. Okay, I put it through even longer. Returns it again, less polite, visibly irritated. I finally make it go as toasted as I can without actually setting it on fire. This time she is very upset, calling me names and saying that I'm too stupid to get what extra toasted means. I apologize and say that I can't roast a bagel anymore without it catching on fire. This time she raises her voice and says the customer is always right, make it correctly. So I put it through longer, and 3/4 the way through the track catches on fire. I watch it go, the smoke alarm started going off and with the woman watching me over the counter her flaming bagel lands in the tray. I count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, blow it out and declare, bagel's done. That time she didn't complain. Honestly, I think she was trying to process a teenager watching her food on fire and then blowing it out. Next one is titled, Secure for Sea? You got it. Backstory. I'm in the military and I work on a boat in the deck department as opposed to engineering or the cushy operations desk department. For any who don't already know, securing for sea is tying down any loose cargo, tools, buckets, etc. so they don't damage themselves or other things during pitching and rolling while underway. The space in question? Paint locker, which is a designated and well-ventilated space for keeping all of our hazmat stuff. As a decky, we do a lot of painting in the summer, which we keep in the paint locker. Our paint takes up about 10 to 20% of what's in paint locker. The other 80 to 90% is engineering stuff. The engineers have a bad habit of going in, getting what they need, and leaving the space a total mess. Malicious compliance. Today, I was told to go in there and secure for C, because the CO and EO did a round of the ship and didn't like what they saw up there. I walk in and guess what? I bet you did. 5-gallon buckets of engineering stuff all over the place, and not one secure thing in sight. So what did I do? I stacked and organized it nicely. How did I secure for C, you might ask? Rope. Lots of it. Knots all over the place, and tight as hell. There wasn't a single loose bucket in that room. Need something from paint locker? You better bring scissors or a knife. Checkmate, grease monkeys. Next one is titled, You Want the Email to be Translated? Fine by me. I work for an insurance company and I am based in France, so a lot of our work and correspondence is done in French. I am working on a loss which implicated several affected parties and insurers. 2 of the insurance companies related to the loss were based in the USA. I wrote an email to all the concerned parties about a laboratory examination that will be taking place related to the loss, and that the insurers are welcome to be present or to assign a third party to be present for them during the laboratory examination. Due to the large number of insurers implicated, I listed everyone's name, insurer, and file number for clarification, and I rewrote the same email in English and put it in the second half of the email. Few days later, Karen, not her name, but I looked at her LinkedIn profile and let me tell you, she has the face and hair of a typical Karen, replies all to the email with one word, translation? Clearly this lady was much too busy to scroll down one tick and see that the bottom half of the email was in English. Unwilling to let this gross unprofessionalism and French hatred slide by so easily, I replied all. Hi Karen, I assume you'd like to receive the information in a language other than French or English since both were included in the original email. Since you did not specify which language you wanted the email to be translated to, I have taken the liberty of including a Spanish, German, and Mandarin version at the foot of this email. Please let me know if any other translations are necessary. She did not reply. Next one is titled, Too Lazy to Walk 40 Feet to the Store, OC. Took the so to eat, then we had to run some errands, which meant going to a building that was literally next to the place we went to go eat. So she asked me, can you please park closer? It is too far and I can't walk that far. Just move one spot closer. So moved one spot closer, shaving off 5 feet off our walk. She couldn't believe that I moved the car 5 feet and parked. When she asked why I didn't park closer, I said, you told me to move one spot closer. Next one is titled, No Happy Ending. Super quick malicious compliance story. So one of my shift leads consistently asks for all 4 baskets of fries to be down, 2 separate fries, 2 baskets each. He wants this whether they are separated by a minute or 5 seconds. Usually I fight this, but tonight after trying 3 times to stop him I didn't have enough energy to fight it. So, with my 2 fryers separated by 20 seconds, I would scoop fries until the next fryer went off, fill the baskets with more fries, and then I'd have all 4 baskets worth of fries to scoop in 2 minutes. Problem was the front of house was not bagging fast enough. After doing this cycle of dropping the fries immediately 3 times for each fryer, I ended up with 4 baskets of fries piled high with 4 more in the fryer and a full chute of fries waiting to be bagged. At this point I tossed out the fries because they were spilling out. I put them in the bin and pointed out to my manager we just threw out 4 baskets of fries. Well, my shift lead was fine with this. He didn't care. There is no happy ending. He was fine with it. About 30 medium fries in the trash. About $65 is what someone would pay for what went in the trash. The end. Next one is titled, The Art of Malicious Compliance. My favorite high school teacher was my art teacher, Mrs. C. Often, she would explain a project to the class, show us how, then work on her own oil painting while the students worked on the assigned project. One day an office assistant came to our classroom and interrupted to tell Mrs. C that she had failed to fill out some paperwork. They handed her a form and told her she needed to fill it out right away. Mrs. C said, "Can't you see I'm busy now? This will have to wait." The office person insisted. She must fill out that form right away. So Mrs. C took the form, taped it over the canvas on her easel, and proceeded to oil paint the answers onto the form using a fine brush. It took her about half an hour, and the office assistant had to stand there and watch as she painted each letter onto the form, and then added decorative scrolling. I loved her for that. Next one is titled, Do I Smell Bacon? Back in the 70s, I was a teenager and working the graveyard shift as a fry cook in an all-night diner. I had been pals with the old night manager, but when a new one replaced him, we didn't hit it off. I resented that he had replaced the old boss I liked, and he resented that I was an arrogant smart butt. It was an open kitchen, picture a Denny's. That evening it was hot in the kitchen, so I cranked up the ventilation. But the night manager said this made it too drafty out front, and told me to turn down the fans. I argued with him, and he repeated the order. I kept arguing until finally he said, I'm in charge here, not you. Now just turn off the damn fans. Then he stormed off to do something in his office. Like I said, I was an arrogant smart butt, so I turned off the ventilation entirely. And then I cooked up a pound of bacon on the grill. I may have overcooked it a little. It was very late at night and there were only 1 or 2 customers drinking coffee at the counter. By the time the manager returned to the dining room, there was so much smoke it was hard to see. But a rich, inviting bacon aroma permeated the dining room. Got fired for that one and had a new job the next day. In those days we had an expression, oh well, I was looking for a job when I found this one. Next one is titled, Ken Can't Wear Women's Clothing? Sure. This has been going on for a few months and it was the highlight of a few evenings. I'm a single mum to 2 daughters, and I'm teaching them complete acceptance unlike their father who's not as nice. Back in February my daughter got her first Ken doll as a gift, and after naming him, and playing with him for a few hours, she wanted to change him into a little black dress. He looked gorgeous. A couple of days later he changed into a stripy number. The same day he got changed into said stripy dress, my kid's dad video called. They were so excited to show him their dollies and all the beautiful outfits that they picked, including the stripy dress. He was mad. He accused me of confusing his kids, teaching them that it's okay to be gay, telling the kids that trannies are normal, and a whole load of other bigot BS, then told me that under no circumstances could I put this doll back into women's clothing. Cue the malicious compliance. I taught my oldest daughter about being gay and that it's okay to love who you love, drag, transgenders, in an age-appropriate way, and kilts. I told both my kids about their granddad who was Scottish and wore kilts for charity and was amazing, and after their approval I began sewing tiny kilts for their Ken. Right now he's wearing a lovely green tartan which my daughter said was her favorite, and he hadn't worn a piece of women's clothing since. Next one is titled, You Know My Boss? Yep, I sure know my boss real well too. So today I was training staff in the safe use of medication. I have a student turn up an hour and a half late. I politely inform said student that unfortunately have arrived in late to attend the session as I would not be able to catch them up on the vital information they had already missed. I do always try where I can, but that much time is just too much for what I was teaching. It is not a subject you can skimp on. The conversation went something like this. Student, I don't see why you can't just catch me up during the breaks. Me, because they are also my breaks. Student, so, that's not my fault. Me, unfortunately it is your fault you are late and I'm not willing to give up my lunch break. Student, I know your boss, so maybe you just let me take my seat and either catch me up during break or at the end of the session. Or do I need to ring your boss to tell you that? So now for MC, I tell the student to go ahead and ring my boss, which the student does. My student starts ranting at my boss, and after about a minute my boss asks the student to put me on. I take the phone, look the student dead in the eye as I say, Hey mum, what's up? I honestly think I saw this guy poo himself. I explain to my mum what has been going on and she asks to be put back on with the student. 30 seconds later, he is packing his stuff and apologizing deeply. I'm a health and social care lecturer. I train part-time and during holidays to supplement my income for my mother's training company. Turns out she did know him and not only taught him a new one professionally but personally as well. This woman raised 6 boys on her own. Next one is titled, No, You Cannot Take My Peanut Butter, It's Not a Liquid. Happened to me about 7 years ago. I traveled for work and they gave us a flat per diem for food, no receipts required. We also would be at the same location for 1 to 4 weeks. It wasn't a great per diem but no questions asked. So in order to bring back every penny, I would buy groceries and keep them in my hotel fridge. I was traveling back and got to TSA screening, and after they scanned my bags the agent informed me that the unopened 7 pounds heirloom lavender peanut butter and the jelly would have to be tossed. This was a lie, it was not going to be thrown away. I could tell by the way her eyes covered it that it would not make it to the trash can. I'm pretty serious about my peanut butter and jelly, and it was not the cheap stuff. So I said could I have it back and give it to someone who was arriving so they could keep it. This was also a lie. She could tell. After she handed it back and while I was collecting my bags we had a brief discussion on the nature of liquids. I could see she was ready to move on. Then I asked if peanut butter was okay if it was in sandwich form. With a petty glee, she said, of course. Yes, if the peanut butter. I saw defeat wash over face mid-sentence as I pulled out a nearly full loaf of bread and utensils. I was 3 hours early for my flight and had plenty of time to make my sandwiches. The other TSA officers chuckled and nudged each other as I made my way through security a second time with a bread bag of PB&Js. Edit just to give some context, because people keep posting, does the kid who reminds the teacher about homework voice? The TSA clearly lists peanut butter as a liquid. This happened in the days of yore. The TSA was still young, iPhone was never going to outsell BlackBerry, unlimited data plans were actually unlimited, YouTube was curiosity, and few people outside of the book trades had heard of Amazon. I had an Ericsson Walkman phone. I had traveled dozens of times without peanut butter being a problem through some of the nation's largest airports without any issues. And here is some podunk airport TSA agent telling me my 7 pounds of hippie-made heirloom apple lavender peanut butter after looking at long a seemingly hand-blown jar is not allowed on board. Well, what would you think? Last one is titled, Tell Me I Can't Carry a TV? Now watch me go. Okay, so where I'm from there are 2 times a year where you can put anything you want to throw out on your front lawn and it'll be picked up no cost. I don't know if it's just my home state that does this or if most states or even countries do this. Where I'm living now used to but doesn't anymore, but that's a basic description of what happens. For kids it's like Christmas because it's common to go to others' trash piles and grab anything you like. One man's trash is another man's treasure, am I right? I've got a desk chair, roller skates, toys, DVD players, a mini trampoline, etc. It's always fun to see what you can find. And now onto the story and the malicious compliance. So when I was 12 my mother sold a lot of our things, TVs and such included, and put anything we couldn't or didn't want to sell in storage while she dragged us all over the country for her book tour. We were homeless, living on the road and all that. Anyway, when we finally returned to our home state we moved into a rental house in a city 4 hours from where we used to live. And then the unpacking happened. My mother had sold the family TV and so stole mine, which I'd purposely kept, and made that the family TV. I was understandably upset since it wasn't my fault that she'd sold their TV. Why'd I have to give up one of the only big items I'd been allowed to keep? Months went by and then that glorious day came and my siblings and I were allowed to wander the nearby streets looking for hidden treasures. That year everyone had been transitioning from analog TVs to a digital one, so the streets were filled with analog TVs that were being thrown out. Almost every house had one on their lawn. I took my siblings home after some successful treasure hunting and begged my mother to help me bring one of the TVs home. It would have taken very little effort on her part to get the car and drive it to one of the TVs I had walked to and bring it home. We were both used to some heavy lifting, so between the two of us it would have been a piece of cake and free. But no, she refused. If you want a TV so bad then you have to carry one back to the house by yourself. It wasn't a challenge or a tone that was in any way positive or encouraging. It was a tone that said, I won't help you and you can't do it alone, so just give up, with a hint of smugness, waiting for me to dejectedly walk to my room in defeat. No way. Fine, just make sure to hold the door open for me when I get back so I can get it inside. I turned and left, determined to prove her wrong. Yeah, sure you will, she had replied, sarcastically. So I went front lawn to front lawn looking for a good TV. There were many that were way too big to carry and other that didn't have any good way for on singular person to grip them and would slip when I tried to pick them up. Eventually, though, about 2 blocks from our house I found a, still relatively large, TV with 2 grip holds and was square enough for me to pick up. I lugged that thing, arms protesting and back aching, the whole way home and set it down right in front of the door. Knock knock knock. Mum come hold the front door open for me. The look on her face was priceless. She just stood there, dumbfounded, before I reminded her that I'd only done what she told me to do. I brought that baby inside and placed it on my TV stand, where I proceeded to hook up my DVD player and give my mother a poo-eating grin when it turned on. I had that TV for years until I eventually had to put it out on my own front lawn when I got a digital TV of my own. The funny thing about this though, is that the TV had to be moved a couple of times while I owned it, moving house and the like, and I couldn't lift it again. It was too heavy, and even with my mother helping we both struggled to get it out of the house. Yet 12-year-old me had managed to lift it all by herself. The desire to maliciously comply and spite my mother gave me a momentary burst of super strength in order to accomplish my task. I still look back and laugh at how my stubbornness and spite empowered me like that. Thanks for listening.